Okay, with the Eibishter's help, today's daf is Masechta Baba Basra daf Kof Samach Vav, and we're going to make it bigger over here and start from the Mishnah on daf Kof Samach Hey Amid Beis. Let's make it big. Let's see if I can make it even bigger. Okay, so the Mishnah begins. Mishnah is discussing simple things. Let's say we're talking about documents, and let's say 4 quarters is a dollar, right? 4 quarters equal a dollar. So let's say you have a document that says you borrowed a dollar, and now you have to pay me back a dollar, which is 3 quarters. So obviously it doesn't make sense because a dollar is 4 quarters. So this is the same idea that the Mishnah is discussing. Kosov, if it's written in the document, Kosov boy, if it's written in a document, Zuzin Meya, that you borrowed 100 zuz, which equals, the Inan means it equals. Okay, hold on. Hi, Lewis. We just began Kuf Samachay Amid Beis. Kosov boy. The Mishnah says if a document is written Zuzin Meya that you borrowed 100 zuz, which is equal the Inan Slon Esrin. It's equal to 20 sloin. Now 100 zuz is equal to 25 sloin. So something is wrong with this document. It's like I said in the beginning, it's like saying you borrowed a dollar, which is equal to 3 quarters, or it's equal to 9 dimes. It doesn't make sense. Mishnah says you follow the low amount. Ein loy ela esrin. He only has to pay back 20 sloim. He doesn't have to pay back 25 sloim. You have to give him 20 sloim. Let's say it says the opposite. Zuz and May, you borrowed 100 zuz, which is normally 25 sloim. But you said in the document it says another thing. The Inan, it equals plus sloim. It's equal 30 sloim. So then you take the lower amount. Ein loy elamana. You only have to pay back 100 zuz. Because we can misinterpret that when he said esrin sloin, he meant that you can pay me back 25 sloim, which is equal to which yeah, hold on.
Hello.
Yeah, which is equal to a very small, which is not as high quality as a normal 25 slime. So it's equal to 20 slime. Or you can say you give me high quality slime, which is equal like 30, but you just give me 25. Anyway, you always follow the lower amount in the document because the one who's holding the document is called a maitzi mechaveroi. He's trying to extract money. And when you don't have 100% proof on your side, you always get the lower amount. Hamaitzi machaveroi. If you're trying to extract money from somebody who's holding on to the money, then you have to prove it. And if you can't prove it, then you always get the lower amount. Let's say you say kesef zinin de inon. You say the document says the loan was two kesef zinin, silver zuz, which is, it doesn't say the amount. Maybe it's 25 zuzin you borrowed, maybe it's 30. The nimchak, the document got erased. Ein pochas mishtayim. You could only collect two because it's plural, right? There was a plural amount, but the lowest plural number is the number two. So then the loan, the most you could collect is two. Kesef sloim the inan. It says kesef sloim, which equals the nimchak, and then it got erased. So ein pochas mishtayim. You only get two kesef sloim because that's it. Or let's say the denomination was darkoinis. It's a number. It's like a denomination, like a half a dollar. And it doesn't say how many half a dollars. The nimcha, it got erased. So again, it says half a dollars you borrowed, but it doesn't say how many half a dollars you borrowed. Ein pochos mishtayim. So then the minimum amount that you're going to get is two, because that's it. Again, the one who's holding the star always takes the lower, always has to prove because he's the one extracting the money from the borrower. Let's say you have a document that says the Mishnah, Kosoboy Milmala, it says on top of the document, Mana, you borrowed 100 zuz. Umilmata, remember, at the bottom of the document, you summarize the contents of the document. There it says that the loan amount was Messiah, 200 zuz. Milmala, let's say on the top of the document, it says Messiah 200 zuz, umilmata mana, and the bottom of the document says mana. So you have a contradiction in the document itself. So which is the most important part of the document? You always look at the bottom of the page. In other words, sometimes the person, the cipher, I guess the writing was different then. They write something on the top, but they finally get it straight on the bottom. So the bottom has, you give more credence to what's written on the bottom of the document than what's written on the top of the document. So if that's the case, the Mishnah asks in Kaim Lama Kaisun Elium, why write the top of a document if you're not going to give any credence to the top of a document? Answers the Mishnah, Shim Timochid Ois Achreis Mina Tachtoin, Yilomed Mina Elion. If you're missing one letter from the bottom, sometimes the top of the document will solve the puzzle. We'll add you that missing letter. Let's say the name was Ru'uv, and it says in the bottom of the document Ru'uv. So then you look at the top of the document, it says the nun, so you could add that nun to the bottom of the document. So sometimes bottom of the document is missing a letter, which you can figure it out, but what's written on the top of the document. But credence is only given to the bottom of the document. Tanu Rabbanah, the rabbis taught, the Gemara begins, Omar Kesef, a guy says, I'm borrowing money. Ein pachas medina kesef. Then the minimum you have to pay back is 1 dinar of kesef. If it says kesef dinarim, v'dinarim bekesef, let's say it says either of these two words, kesef dinarim, I'm borrowing kesef dinarim, so then ein pachas mishnei dinarim kesef. Then you have to return no matter the minimum amount of the loan was 2 dinars kesef. Kesef bid-dinarin, here you added the word bid-dinarin, so I'm borrowing kesef, I have to pay back kesef bid-dinarin, so you pay back amount of silver, which equals dinarin in this context means the gold dinars. Ein pachas b'shnei dinarin dahav kesef. You pay back silver or silver coins, which equal 2 dinars of gold coins. Dinarin over here, bid-dinarim, means you're paying back with the highest form of a dinar, the highest metal contact of a dinar, which is gold. So the Gemara explains this brisa. Amamar, it says in the brisa kesef, if you borrowed kesef, ein pachos midinar kesef. You can't pay back less than a dinar of kesef. How do you know? Ve'emam nascha. Maybe you borrowed a little chip of gold, like a little piece of gold, not worth a dinar of kesef, and that's what you have to pay back. Rab Lazar said the ksiv bei matbei. It says the word coin in the document. So the Gemara says the ema prete. Maybe you have to give back pretim. Pretim are like this, not a dinar, but a kesef made of prutas. Sometimes they would make pruta, which is like a penny made. Imagine a silver penny. So maybe that's what you borrowed, a silver penny. Amar Papa says, "Ba'asur loisagi priti de kaspa." It's a city that people do not use silver pennies. So therefore, when you said silver and it's silver coin, you probably meant you borrowed a dinar kesef. Tana Rabbanan, a new brisa. Dahav. If it says in the document you borrowed gold, you have to return ein pachas midinar dahav. You have to pay back a coin of gold. Dahav dinarim v'dinarim dahav. Ein pachas mishnei dinarim dahav. Then you have no less than to pay 2 dinarim of gold, because it says dinarim, and dinarim means plural. Dahav bidinarim. So then gold with dinars, you pay me back gold with dinars. Ein pachas mishnei dinarim kesef. You have to give 2 dinars of kesef, of silver coins, which equal dahav, like 1 gold coin. So, or 1 piece of gold. So that's the point. So Amamah, let's explain this brisa. Same idea. If in the document says you borrowed dahav, gold, you have to return ein pachas mishnei dahav. You have to return a gold coin. Says the Gemara, Eimen Ascha, maybe it means you have to give him a little crumb of gold. How do you know that the the loan amount was a dinar dahav because it just says gold. Gold can be anything. Gold can be a little crumb of gold. So how do we interpret that the document must meant a loan amount of a dinar dahav, of a coin of gold? Amar Ablaza the custom matbeya. It must say that the document did say that you borrowed coin. Now we go to Amid Aleph. So now Kuf Samavav Amid Aleph. So now Vehema Priti, maybe you borrowed a gold penny. Okay, imagine that. And for Gemara, Priti Dahavale Avdi Inchim. Nobody makes, not anywhere, nobody will make a gold penny. So it's definitely a gold coin. Now the Brisa said, Zoha b'dinarim. Ein pochas mibshnei dinarim kesef. When you said gold, b'dinarim, that was the last thing. So you have to pay 2 dinars of kesef to pay back a piece of gold, which is worth a piece of gold. Says the Gemara, maybe it means this. The ema dahava pricha b'tei dronim dahava. You have to give me pieces. You have to give me 2 dinars of gold, which equal a bunch of different pieces of gold. In other words, the dinar are not silver dinar, but maybe it's gold, paying back gold. So you have to give me a large amount of dinar gold, which is worth much more than the dinar of kesef, to make up the gold that you borrowed, the pieces of gold that you borrowed. So you could say it means silver coins, silver dinars, and you could say it means silver coins, so gold coins, dinars that you have to pay back. Amar Abaye, so the Abaye says, Yad Bal Shtar Al Taktoina. The owner of the shtar always has the underhand, and therefore, if you're not sure, you always say it means the lower amount, which is it meant that you borrowed. You have to pay back 2 dinars of kesef worth some gold, but it has to be coins of kesef, not coins of gold. Says the Gemara, ihachi. So the Gemara says, so the Gemara says, there's another gears over here. The Gemara says, the Gemara's question is, Reisha diktoni kesef b'didorin ein pachas mishnei didorin kesef. In the first brisa, it says kesef b'dinarim. So you say you have to have 2 dinars of kesef to pay back some silver that you borrowed. 2 dinars of gold to pay back some kesef that you borrowed. Ein pachas mishnei diram zov kesef. Amai. Why do you say that? Why don't you say you have to have 2 dinars of kesef to pay back kesef? Ema kaspa naspa nascha betrayed kaspa kama. You're paying back a piece of silver with 2 coins of silver. So what's the difference between the first brisa, which says you have to pay back 2 dinars of gold to pay back the silver that you borrowed, and the second brisa, which says you have to pay back 2 dinars of silver to make up for the gold that you borrowed? What's the difference? Amar Rav Ashi says it's a difference in language. Reisha diksav dinare. In the first price, you have to you have to say that it said the word dinare, that you have to pay back dinare. The word dinare means a gold dinar. Okay, gold dinar is called dinare. Seifa, the ksav dinarin, is called dinarin with a nun. That means silver dinars. So the word dinari means gold dinars, and the word dinarin means silver dinars. And that's how you explain the 2 brises. One says you have to pay back in gold, and one says you have to pay back in silver dinarim. Now, Umana Taimra, and how do I know from another Mishnah, Vishanid ben dinare li dinarin? How do I know that there's a difference between the word dinare, which means gold dinars, and the narin, which means silver dinars? Answers the Gemara. At the time we have a Mishnah. A woman that gives birth, has to bring a carbon chatas and a carbon oila. That's a pasuk in Parshas Azriah. Or if she was a zava and she saw blood 3 times during her Yemei Ziva, so then during the between the nidas, then she has to bring a carbon. But let's say she's in doubt. She's a suffix. So what should she do? So she had 5 times this Sveka happened. You have 5 times she gave birth, and we don't know if she gave birth to a child or she gave birth to heir. So Mavia carbon echad, she brings one carbon, one bird as a oila, one bird as a chatas, and then she can eat kachim. Because it's very hard for her to require her to bring another carbon chatas because you're bringing carbons maybe that she doesn't have to bring into the base of English. That's wasted carbons. And anyway, when she brings that carbon chatas, you're going to bury it. So one carbon, and then she undoes all the sfekas, and she's tahar, and she could start eating truma and kachim. She doesn't have an obligation to make up four more suffix carbonates. What happens? She gave birth 5 times. She never brought a carbon. She had 5 times. She saw ziva, 5 different sets of ziva. She went to the mikvah, and then she had another situation of a chiyav carbon. So she has 5 obligations of carbonas. So mavia carbon echad, she first brings one carbon, and then she could eat kachim. But she has to make up. She still owes. Let's say she had 5 babies, right? So if she brings a carbon chatas and carbon oil for one, she could eat kachim, but she still has to bring 4 more times carbonas to make up for the other births that she had. Vashar aleh choyvet, and the rest is an obligation. But there was a time that where there was an explosion of population, and people had to bring a lot of carbonas in the Beis Hamikdash. So guess what? The people who controlled these birds drove up the prices. So it became a shortage. Maisa, there was a story in this time of the second Beis Hamikdash, va'amdu kinim b'Yushalayim b'ninar zav, to buy a set of birds, like a set of esrogim, a set of a lulav and esrog, you had to pay a dinar zav, 2 dinars of zav, dinrei. See the word dinrei? So dinrei means gold dinars you had to pay, an exorbitant amount. Omar Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. So Rab Shimon ben Gamliel was so upset that people are spending so much money for these birds, and so a rabbi is not just for the spiritual; he's also for the physical part of his constituents. So he said, "I'm going to do something about it. Hamoin as I swear in the space of Migdash, in Olin Halayla, if I sleep another night, until the price of birds go down to the price of dinarin, which is silver dinars. Nichnas lebezdin velimit. He went to the shul and he made an announcement. If a woman gave birth 5 times and or ziva 5 times, she only has to bring one carbon, one time a carbon, and that's it. Mivia carbon echad vechelas bezochem ve'ein hashar lechayv. She doesn't have to make it up. That's it. So you can have 5 births over births, 5 children over 5 years, and you can get away with bringing one carbon. Guess what? We go to Amid Bays. The price of kinim went down to a quarter of a dinar because the demand dropped. So we see that from this brisa that there's a difference. The word dinare means gold dinars, and the dinarim means silver dinars. So that's the whole point of bringing that brisa. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught Kusid Mulmala. So now we go to a new point. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught. Yilame Tachta Min Elyon Ba'isachas. The bottom could, if it's missing one letter in, let's say, the name, you could learn what the real person's name is by looking at the top of the document. Even though the credence is always given to the bottom of the document, but if you're not sure what the name is, if it's missing one letter of the name, then you look at the top of the document. But not if it's missing 2 letters. Kagain. If in the bottom of the document it says the word chanon, you look at the top of the document and you see the word chanoni, you could assume that the guy's name is Chanoni. If the bottom of the document says v'onon, it says his name was Onon, and the top of the document says his name is Anoni with an yud, so then you give credence and you could say that the loan was made to Anoni. So, but if it was missing 2 letters, then the whole document, you can't decide, maybe it was another person. You don't fill in the bottom line with 2 letters because you found it on the top of the document. Says the Gemara, why not? Why not? Because maybe Misrame Shem ben Abba Isis, maybe the guy had a name that was 4 letters big. V'hava le palga d'shmei. And therefore, it only said half his name on the bottom of the document. And you're going to fill in the other 2 letters from the top of the document. So you're dissolving a person's name totally from the top of the document, have at least 50% of it. And therefore, when there's two letters missing, no matter what, even if it was a big name or not. Once there's two letters, we always disregard this document. If the name on top has two letters more than the name on the bottom, then we have to disregard the document because we don't know who it was written for. Says the Gemara, if the top of the document, if the bottom of the document is missing one letter in the name, and you could learn it from the top of the document, let's invalidate that document also. Because sometimes, Dilma Misram Hashem Ben Shtei Isis, let's say you have a name that has two letters to it, Noyach, and it's missing the letter Ches. You only see the word Nun on the bottom. And it says Noyach on the top of the letter, on top of the document, right? So you're going to bring the Ches down to the bottom of the document, V'havale Pal Geshmei. So you're filling in a person's half a name based on what you learned from the top of the document. And you said you don't want to do that. So what's the difference between if it's missing one letter or two letters? Answers the Gemara, no. Really, if you learn 50% of a person's name from the top of the document, that's nothing wrong. The reason why two letters there's a problem is because Dilma Misram Shem Ben Shalosh Oisis. Sometimes you'll have a name that has three letters. Let's say Avi, Aleph, Beis, Yud. And if it's missing two letters, so if the bottom of the page says the word Aleph, you're going to be basically taking Beis Yud from the top and saying, okay, it must be Avi, and you're going to add that to the person's name on the bottom. You're actually adding you're adding most of his name to the bottom of the page. And that we don't want to do. More than a half, up to a half, okay, you could figure it out. You could say, okay, but taking most of a person's name from the top and applying it, what you learned from the top of the document to the bottom of the document, that they didn't want to do. So the bottom line is that if one letter is missing from the top of the document, from the bottom of the document, and you learn it from the top of the document, that's okay. But if it's two letters missing from the bottom of the document, from the name, two letters missing from the name, and the top of the document has the name with two extra letters, the document is disqualified. Half a minute, and then we'll stop. Amar Papa said, Pshitali, it's simple to me, Seifel Milmala. Let's say the document says that you borrowed a jug. Let's call a Seifel a jug. And then the bottom of the document says V'kefel Milmata. You borrowed something that folds up, which is like a suit. So then, then you give credence only to what's written on the bottom of the document. Like I said, the bottom of the document is what's most important. Here's classic Gemara. Boyer Papa said, it says kefel milmal. It says a folded, it says a suit on top, the word kefel. And it says the word the seifel milmata. It says the word seifel, you borrowed a jug on the bottom. Why? Maybe let's not give credence to the bottom and assume that it also said the word kefel on the bottom. And why does it look like a samach? Because a fly bit the leg of the kuf, and now it looks like a samach. But really, it said kefel on the bottom also because it says kefel on the top. Michashinin lizvov oilai. Would you be concerned that a fly ate the part of the letter so it looks like he borrowed a seifel? And therefore, but really, he borrowed a kefel, a suit. Or we're not worried about a fly eating part of the document. Teku, this remains unresolved. Okay, we will stop over here on the bottom of Kuf Samet Vav Amud Beis.
Thank you.
Okay, a gute Nacht, everybody.
Have a great night. Thank you.